Have you ever gone to bed feeling perfectly healthy, only to wake up unable to speak, move one side of your body, or even recognize your loved ones? For people over 60, that nightmare can become real, and the most terrifying part, it might not be from cigarettes or junk food or skipping the gym. It might be from something you thought was healthy, something your doctor even encouraged you to eat, fruit. The truth is that after 60, the very foods that once nourished you can become silent killers, creating the perfect conditions for a stroke while you sleep. This isn't fear-mongering, it's real medicine. It's the pattern I've seen in patient after patient, family after family, and no one ever warned them. But today, I will. Because if you're over 60, you need to know exactly which common fruits can spike your stroke risk overnight, and how to keep them from stealing your balance, your memory, or your independence. Stay with me to the end of this video. It might be the most important health advice you hear this year. Before we dive in, if you care about protecting your brain, your independence, and your loved ones, please hit the like button, subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss practical, life-saving health advice made for you. And if you're watching right now, comment 1 to tell me you're with me. Let's learn together. Now, let's talk about what actually happens as you age and why this all matters. When you're in your 30s or 40s, your body is incredibly forgiving. Eat an apple, your pancreas pumps out insulin. Have a banana, your kidneys flush out the extra potassium without blinking. Sip on orange juice, your liver metabolizes it alongside your cholesterol meds just fine. But after 60, everything changes. Your kidneys lose efficiency, your blood vessels stiffen, your liver processes medications more slowly. Your blood pressure medications, statins and diuretics create delicate balances that even small food interactions can disrupt. And your brain, the most fragile organ of all, relies on stable circulation, consistent oxygen, and clear vessels. That's why a single mistake, one fruit at the wrong time, in the wrong amount, with the wrong medication, can tip you over the edge. That's how someone who eats healthy can suffer a stroke without warning. Let me share one of the most common surprises that trips people up: bananas. You've heard it forever. Bananas are the perfect snack, full of potassium, great for your heart. And for younger adults, that's mostly true. But for seniors, the story changes. As we age, our kidneys don't filter potassium as efficiently. If you're on blood pressure meds, especially ACE inhibitors or diuretics, your potassium balance is even more fragile. A single large banana can have over 450 milligrams of potassium. That's enough to overwhelm a slowing kidney and lead to dangerous levels in your blood overnight. What happens then? Your heart rhythm falters, your blood vessels constrict, and clots form where blood should flow freely, clots that can shut down part of your brain in seconds. I'll never forget a patient of mine, Mr. Roger Simmons, 67, a retired carpenter from Ohio. He was active, sharp-minded, and proud of his daily routine. Every morning, he'd slice a banana onto his oatmeal and wash down his blood pressure medication with orange juice. He thought he was doing everything right. Then one morning, his wife found him on the bathroom floor. Left side paralyzed, speech slurred. At the hospital, scans revealed a small but devastating stroke. Blood work showed dangerously high potassium levels that had disrupted his heart rhythm overnight and triggered clot formation. Roger had no idea that 2 bananas a day, combined with his medication, were pushing him into danger. That's why I tell my older patients, if you're over 60, especially on heart or blood pressure meds, limit bananas to half a banana in the morning with protein like yogurt or nuts. Skip the banana smoothies or banana bread. And whatever you do, don't eat them before bed. Talk to your doctor about how potassium-rich foods interact with your prescriptions. Because what used to be healthy might not be safe anymore, and bananas aren't the only hidden danger. Let's move on to another fruit that seems perfectly harmless: grapes. Sweet, juicy, refreshing, grapes are the snack you see on fruit platters at parties, in cereal bowls, or passed around after Sunday lunch with grandkids. But for seniors with hidden vascular issues or unstable blood sugar, grapes can be a silent trigger for stroke. Why? Because they're concentrated sugar bombs. Even a small handful, especially the seedless extra sweet varieties common in US stores, can cause a rapid blood sugar spike. As we age, our insulin response slows and our blood vessels become more fragile. Those sugar spikes don't just stress your pancreas, they inflame the walls of your arteries, including those feeding your brain. Inflamed arteries stiffen and narrow, microscopic tears can develop, and your body responds the only way it knows how, by forming clots to heal the damage. Clots that can block blood flow to your brain. One of my patients, Mrs. Jeanette Monroe, 81, was a retired school teacher from Missouri who prided herself on living naturally: no soda, no processed food, always eating fresh fruits. Her favorite mid-morning snack? A big bowl of red grapes while reading the paper. Sometimes she'd go through nearly 2 cups without thinking twice. One day, she noticed her vision blurring while writing a birthday card. Moments later, her hand trembled, and she couldn't remember the word congratulations. Her daughter rushed her to the hospital, fearing a stroke, and that's exactly what it was. A transient ischemic attack, or mini-stroke, caused by a clot briefly blocking blood flow to the left side of her brain. Her lab tests showed sharp sugar spikes around midday. Her A1C, a long-term blood sugar marker, had crept into the pre-diabetic range, something she never suspected. Chronic, low-grade inflammation in her arteries was quietly setting her up for disaster. So here's what I tell my older patients. Never eat grapes on an empty stomach. Don't eat them by the bowlful. Pair them with protein or fat, like a few almonds or a slice of cheese, to slow sugar absorption. Limit portions to a small handful, preferably during active hours of the day when your body can burn the sugar. And if you're diabetic or on blood pressure meds, ask your doctor if you should skip them entirely, because what seems like a harmless snack can rob you of your balance, your memory, even your independence. Now let's look at another fruit that seems innocent, but carries hidden risks: pineapple. There's something about pineapple that feels like sunshine in a bite. It's sweet, tangy, tropical. Many older adults see it as a guilt-free treat after dinner. It's natural. It's full of enzymes. What could be the harm? But here's what most seniors don't realize. Pineapple carries a triple threat for stroke risk. First, the sugar spike. A single cup has over 16 grams of sugar. Second, bromelain, a natural enzyme that can interfere with blood clotting by reducing platelet function. And third, acidity, which can trigger silent reflux. Silent reflux isn't always the burning chest pain you expect. For many seniors, it causes microaspiration while sleeping, tiny amounts of acid entering the airway, changing nighttime airway pressure, and reducing oxygen to the brain. That low oxygen while you sleep has been linked to early morning strokes, the deadliest kind. I remember Mrs. Clara Hughes, 78, a retired choir director from North Carolina. She was active, sharp, and committed to eating clean. She avoided processed sweets and replaced her nightly desserts with fresh pineapple slices. For over a year, this was her bedtime routine. Then one morning, she woke up feeling foggy and disoriented. Her daughter noticed her words were slurred. She couldn't balance while walking. A CT scan revealed a small posterior circulation stroke, affecting her balance and speech. Her blood work showed elevated glucose levels, signs of reflux irritation overnight, and platelet irregularities. It wasn't just one thing. It was a perfect storm created by her pineapple habit. Sugar spikes while she slept, acid reflux stealing oxygen, bromelain interfering with clotting. She thought she was helping herself, but nearly lost her independence. So my advice to seniors is simple. If you love pineapple, enjoy it earlier in the day in small amounts, never on an empty stomach. Avoid pairing it with blood-thinning medications unless your doctor says it's okay, and absolutely avoid it before bed. Your brain needs stability while you sleep, not surprises. We can't stop there, because pineapple isn't the only fruit that can turn on you in ways you'd never expect. Let's talk about watermelon. It's practically a summer icon in America. Chilled slices on the 4th of July, seed-spitting contests with grandkids, that crisp, refreshing crunch after a hot afternoon in the garden. It feels harmless, even healthy. After all, it's over 90% water. But here's the surprising truth. For seniors, especially those with cardiovascular issues or certain medications, watermelon can quietly set you up for danger. Not through sugar or acid, but through what it takes away from you. Watermelon acts as a natural diuretic. That means it makes you urinate more frequently. No big deal for a 25-year-old, but for a 76-year-old with borderline blood pressure or on diuretics for heart failure, it can lead to overnight dehydration, one of the most dangerous silent triggers for stroke. When you become dehydrated, your blood thickens, moving like syrup through aging, narrower vessels. That sluggish blood is the perfect environment for clots to form, especially overnight, when circulation naturally dips and blood pressure drops. I'll never forget Mr. Harold Larkin, 83, a retired postal worker from Indiana. He did everything right. He walked daily, avoided processed sugar, and stuck to what he believed were healthy snacks. But his favorite evening habit was 2 or 3 large slices of watermelon after dinner. He thought it cooled him down and kept him hydrated. What he didn't realize was that he was also on a diuretic for mild heart failure. The combination meant his body was shedding too much fluid overnight. One morning, Harold woke up with severe vertigo. When he tried to stand, he collapsed. At the hospital, his blood pressure was dangerously low, and his labs showed concentrated hemoglobin, a marker of thickened blood due to dehydration. Scans revealed a small ischemic stroke, likely from a clot forming in narrowed arteries as he slept. His watermelon wasn't hydrating him, it was drying him out, and the stroke left him needing a cane and help with daily tasks. Just a week before, he'd been mowing his own lawn. This is why I urge older adults to enjoy watermelon wisely. Eat it earlier in the day. Pair it with electrolytes, a pinch of salt or coconut water to help maintain fluid balance. If you're on diuretics, ask your doctor before making it a daily habit. And listen to your body. Dizziness in the morning, dry mouth overnight, confusion upon waking. These aren't just aging. They're warning whispers that your circulation is in trouble. But watermelon isn't the only so-called healthy fruit that can sabotage you in your sleep. Let's look at oranges. For decades, oranges have been a symbol of American health. A glass of fresh squeezed juice with breakfast, orange slices in a lunchbox, the classic orange in a Christmas stocking, nature's vitamin C miracle, right? But for seniors, especially those on heart or blood pressure medications, oranges can quietly turn into a chemical cocktail setting of dangerous chain reactions in the body, reactions that lead to clots and strokes. The problem isn't just the sugar, although one large orange or a glass of juice can spike blood glucose dramatically. The real threat lies in a compound called furanocoumarin, found in citrus. This natural chemical can interfere with how your liver metabolizes certain medications, including statins, calcium channel blockers, and blood thinners. Instead of your body breaking down these drugs safely and gradually, it might hold on to too much, raising toxicity, or flush them out too quickly, rendering them useless. The results can be catastrophic, but they're silent, slow, and almost impossible to notice until it's too late. Let me share the story of Mr. Elwood Bryant, 80, a retired bus driver from Georgia. He was a kind man with a generous smile. He took a statin for high cholesterol and amlodipine for blood pressure. Every morning, he proudly drank a tall glass of fresh squeezed orange juice. His sunshine in a glass, he called it. He thought he was doing everything right, but that juice was flooding his body with furanocoumarin, blocking his liver from processing his meds properly. His blood pressure medicine built up in his bloodstream, intensifying its effects. Meanwhile, the statin was accumulating in his muscles and vessels, increasing inflammation. For days he felt slightly dizzy, but he brushed it off as aging. Then one morning, he stood from his recliner and collapsed. At the ER, his speech was slurred and he was confused. A CT scan confirmed a mild ischemic stroke. Blood tests showed dangerously elevated drug levels, not because he overdosed, but because the orange juice had blocked his liver from clearing them. When I explained it to Elwood and his wife, they were stunned. He said, "All my life, I thought orange juice was good for me." And once, it was. But aging changes everything. What worked at 40 doesn't always work at 80, especially with prescription medications in the picture. That's why I tell my older patients to eat citrus sparingly, never combine it with medications without talking to a physician, and consider lower risk options like clementines or a small splash of juice in water instead of full glasses. Let's keep going, because even the classic apple a day keeps the doctor away advice has a hidden side. Apples are the symbol of American health: crisp, juicy, easy to pack in lunches, handed out in hospitals, served in senior meal programs, given by grandkids who want you to stay healthy. But for people over 60, managing blood pressure, diabetes, or even early cognitive changes, apples aren't always so innocent. Not all apples are created equal. Many popular varieties like Fuji, Honeycrisp, and Gala are bred for sweetness. They have a high glycemic load, meaning they flood your bloodstream with sugar faster than your aging system can handle. If you eat them alone, especially without protein or fat to slow digestion, you set off a blood sugar spike, followed by a crash. And these swings do more than sap your energy. They affect your blood pressure, increase vascular inflammation, and thicken your blood. Sugar spikes make your blood more acidic and sticky. Your insulin levels surge, your blood vessels tighten, and over time, that repeated stress damages the delicate lining of your arteries, including those leading to your brain. Microscopic tears form, your body tries to repair them with clots, and those clots can trigger a stroke at the worst possible moment. One patient I'll never forget is Mrs. Louise Hammond, 82, from Pennsylvania. She had been healthy most of her life. She walked daily, took her meds as prescribed, and truly believed she was eating smart. Every afternoon, she treated herself to a large Honeycrisp apple, no chips, no cookies, just fruit. But she didn't know she was also insulin resistant. Those daily sugar surges were overwhelming her aging blood vessels. Over time, she noticed her vision would blur slightly in the evenings. She'd feel a strange pressure in her head when standing. One evening, while making dinner, she lost her ability to speak clearly. Her daughter rushed her to the ER, where imaging confirmed a minor stroke. Her labs showed unstable blood glucose patterns and clear signs of endothelial inflammation. Her meds were working, but the sugar spikes were quietly setting her up for vascular damage. A clot had formed, likely during one of those sugar peaks. She recovered, but she now treats apples very differently. She doesn't see them as the enemy, but as something to approach with awareness. I tell all my senior patients, if you love apples, choose wisely. Granny Smith varieties are lower in sugar and higher in brain protective flavonoids. Always eat them with protein or healthy fat, like almond butter or a slice of cheese to reduce the sugar impact. And never eat a sweet apple on an empty stomach, especially in the evening. Your brain needs stable fuel, not a sugar roller coaster. But the surprises don't stop there. Let's talk about cherries. They're small, beautiful, and bursting with colour. They show up in senior wellness magazines, in organic markets, and on top of everything from yogurt to salads. Doctors recommend them for inflammation, arthritis, even heart health. They seem like the perfect fruit, right? But beneath that sweet, glossy skin is a little-known risk that can turn dangerous for older adults, especially those already on blood thinners or medications that affect clotting. Cherries contain salicylates, a natural blood-thinning compound that works similarly to aspirin. For some seniors, a little thinning is helpful, but add cherries on top of your daily aspirin or prescription blood thinners like warfarin or clopidogrel, and you can quietly push your blood into dangerous territory. Blood that's too thin doesn't clot when it should. Fragile vessels can leak. And in the worst case, you end up with a hemorrhagic stroke, bleeding inside the brain. It doesn't sound real, does it? But I've seen it firsthand. One of my patients, Mr. Dennis Rhodes, 85, a retired train conductor from Illinois, learned this the hard way. Years ago, he'd had a mild heart attack, and his doctor prescribed a daily low-dose aspirin along with a statin and blood pressure medication. Dennis wanted to stay active for his great-grandkids, so he ended every dinner with a small bowl of cherries. Nature's dessert, he called them. At first, there were no problems, but after several weeks, he started getting headaches, dizzy spells, and mild nausea. One morning, he woke up confused and vomiting. His wife rushed him to the ER, where a CT scan revealed a brain bleed, a hemorrhagic stroke. He hadn't missed a single dose or messed up his prescriptions. The doctors ruled out medication errors, but when we reviewed his diet, it was clear. The salicylates in the cherries, on top of his aspirin, had created the perfect storm. His blood had become too thin to clot. A tiny vessel ruptured in his brain. That's what makes this so scary. The effects are subtle and gradual. You feel fine until you're not. And once bleeding starts in the brain, it's hard to stop. Recovery is uncertain. Some lose their speech, others their mobility. Many never regain their full independence. That's why I tell my senior patients, even natural foods can interact with your prescriptions. Your body at 70 or 80 isn't processing things the way it did at 40. A fruit that might help a younger person with inflammation can push an older adult system into crisis. If you love cherries, please eat them mindfully. A few now and then are likely safe, but avoid cherry concentrate, juice, or large daily portions if you're on any medication that affects clotting. And always talk to your doctor before making them a regular part of your diet, because what seems small can turn serious in an aging body that's already working overtime to stay balanced. And if that surprised you, let's turn our attention to strawberries. Who doesn't love strawberries? They're bright red, heart-shaped, sweet, with just the right hint of tartness. They're served on hospital meal trays, blended into so-called brain health smoothies, and featured at brunches in retirement communities across America. They're the picture of health. But for older adults, the truth behind strawberries is far less sweet. This popular fruit may be silently raising your risk of stroke, inflammation, and long-term brain toxicity in ways you've likely never even considered. First, there's something most people don't know. Strawberries are consistently ranked near the top of the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen list, produced with the highest levels of pesticide residues, even after washing. For seniors whose detox systems naturally slow with age, those chemicals don't just leave the body quickly. They build up in tissues, including the brain, where they can disrupt neurological function and weaken blood vessels from the inside out. These pesticides aren't just surface-level irritants. Many are neurotoxic. They damage brain cells and increase oxidative stress in aging neurons. Over time, they weaken the structural integrity of small blood vessels, especially in the brain's white matter, the areas most vulnerable to small strokes, memory loss, and cognitive decline. Once that damage sets in, the body responds with inflammation and clot formation, increasing the risk of ischemic strokes. But pesticides aren't the only problem. Strawberries also contain purines, natural compounds that break down into uric acid in the body. For older adults with gout, kidney disease, or vascular inflammation, a huge portion of the senior population, elevated uric acid can trigger inflammatory responses that narrow blood vessels, raise blood pressure, and increase clot formation. I remember Mrs. Elaine Carter, 81, from Michigan. She loved strawberries her whole life. She picked them fresh every June, froze them for smoothies, and enjoyed a small bowl after dinner, believing she was making the healthiest choice possible. She had mild hypertension, was on a diuretic, and occasionally struggled with joint pain. Over time, she started waking up dizzy. Her joints swelled and stayed swollen. Then one morning, she felt numbness in her right hand and couldn't form words clearly. A CT scan confirmed a minor ischemic stroke. Her labs showed elevated uric acid, oxidative stress, and signs of low-grade inflammation, likely from years of pesticide exposure and purine overload. She thought she was protecting her health, but it had become a subtle daily dose of risk. That clot had formed because her body was no longer equipped to clear it. Elaine survived, but she now lives with mild memory gaps and nerve sensitivity in her hand. She told me through tears, "I thought I was doing everything right." That's why I want you to understand, even so-called superfoods can turn toxic in the wrong body, at the wrong time, under the wrong conditions. If you eat strawberries, choose organic every single time, wash them thoroughly, don't eat them every day, and don't rely on them as your main antioxidant source. If you have gout, kidney issues, or are on blood pressure meds, talk to your doctor before adding them regularly. And be cautious with frozen strawberries in pre-made smoothies. They often come from bulk batches grown overseas with even less regulation. Because what you don't know can hurt you slowly and quietly until one day a clot steals your words, your balance, or your independence. Now, before we wrap up this critical conversation about fruit, stroke risk, and aging, there's one more fruit we absolutely have to talk about. Because if you thought grapes or pineapple were surprising, this last one might be the most shocking of all, because it's often sold as an exotic health food and even featured in heart health supplements. Let's talk about mango. Mango feels like a tropical treat, a reward for doing something right. It's soft, fragrant, naturally sweet, and shows up sliced in fruit salads, blended into smoothies at senior wellness cafes, or dried and packaged as a healthy snack. The bright orange flesh seems like nature's dessert. And for many people, that's exactly how it's marketed. But for seniors, especially those managing heart conditions, blood pressure, or taking multiple medications, mango may be a silent saboteur that raises stroke risk in ways most doctors never mention. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Mango is one of the highest sugar fruits in the American diet. Just 1 cup of ripe mango can have nearly 45 grams of natural sugar, more than the average donut. And unlike complex carbs, mango sugar is rapidly absorbed, leading to sudden blood sugar spikes followed by insulin surges and crashes. For seniors with insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, or unstable blood pressure, this roller coaster effect places enormous strain on blood vessels, especially those in the brain. When blood sugar spikes, the body responds with inflammation. Arteries tighten, circulation slows, and in the delicate vessels that feed the brain, that inflammation can create tiny cracks in the lining of the walls. Once that happens, your body jumps into repair mode and forms blood clots to seal those cracks, a natural defense mechanism that can, in a narrowed or stiffened vessel, become the very starting point of a stroke. But it gets even more complicated. Mango doesn't just disrupt blood sugar, it contains natural compounds that interfere with the way your liver processes medications, especially for heart rhythm, cholesterol, and blood pressure. One of these compounds, mangiferin, has been shown in some studies to slow down the cytochrome P450 enzyme system your liver uses to break down many prescription drugs. When that system slows, Your medications build up in your body, increasing the risk of overdose, side effects, or dangerous interactions. Imagine this. You're taking something like amlodipine for blood pressure, metoprolol for heart rate, or even a common statin for cholesterol. If mango is slowing your liver's ability to clear those drugs, your blood pressure can dip too low overnight. Your heart rhythm can become unstable without warning. It's a hidden interaction that many seniors and even many doctors don't think about. Let me tell you about a real patient, Mr. William Booker, 84, a retired firefighter from Nevada, prided himself on staying active, walking daily, and choosing heart-healthy options. A few months ago, he started eating dried mango slices every afternoon, thinking it was a smart switch from cookies. He was also on medications for high blood pressure and atrial fibrillation. After a few weeks, William began noticing episodes of lightheadedness in the mornings. One day, he collapsed while getting out of bed. His wife found him pale, confused, with a slight droop on the left side of his face. At the hospital, scans confirmed a minor ischemic stroke. Lab tests revealed his blood pressure had dropped too low overnight, and his medication levels were abnormally elevated, even though he was taking the right dose. Reviewing his diet, the culprit became clear. The daily dried mango was overloading his liver, interfering with how his medications were processed. The sugar spikes compounded the problem, creating the perfect environment for clot formation. William survived, but the stroke affected his coordination and short-term memory. Now he lives with daily reminders of how something natural nearly took everything from him. That's why I urge older adults to rethink tropical fruits like mango. The sweetness masks its danger. It's not just the sugar, it's the way it interacts with an aging body, a slowing metabolism, and the complex web of medications many seniors rely on. Even a few slices, especially in dried form, can tip the body into imbalance. So what's the safe approach? If you truly love mango, eat it in very small portions, no more than a few bites, and only during the day, never before bed. Always pair it with protein or fat to blunt the sugar spike. And if you're on any prescription medication, especially for heart, cholesterol, or blood pressure, talk to your doctor first. Mango may not be right for you anymore, not at this stage of life, because in our later years, our margin for error shrinks. What we tolerated in our 30s or 40s can now trigger serious consequences, even from a fruit. So let's review. When you're over 60, food isn't just fuel, it's chemistry, it's medicine, or it's poison. That's not meant to scare you, but to empower you, because you can choose what messages you send to your brain, your heart, and your blood vessels. Eat berries freely, with confidence. Choose green apples, but pair them with healthy fats. Enjoy avocados regularly, they're heart and brain safe. Use lemons and limes for flavor and gentle detox support. Drink pomegranate juice carefully, in small amounts diluted with water. And most importantly, remember timing. Fruit is best early in the day, paired with protein or fat. Never eat it on an empty stomach. Never eat it before bed when your circulation slows. Your body is listening. Every bite is a signal about how you want to age. Do you want stability or chaos? Clarity or confusion? Independence or dependence? These aren't just big, scary questions. They're daily, practical choices. That's why I say, read your labels, ask your doctors, think about what's on your plate, not just today, but in the weeks and months to come. You're not just eating to live anymore. You're eating to stay sharp, to stay standing, to stay you. Now, after hearing about those fruits that might seem healthy, even harmless, but can quietly raise your risk of stroke, you may be feeling unsettled or even a little betrayed. That's normal. For years we've been told, fruit is nature's medicine, a gift from the earth, something you can always trust. But the truth, especially for those of us over 60, is more complicated and far more important to understand. Aging changes everything. The The foods you ate at 30 or 40 don't land the same way at 70 or 80. Your kidneys filter more slowly. Your liver processes medications with less efficiency. Your blood vessels become more fragile, less flexible, and your brain, the most delicate organ of all, grows increasingly sensitive to fluctuations in blood pressure, blood sugar, and clotting factors. That means every bite matters more now than ever before. Many older adults, with the best intentions, build daily routines that quietly put their brain at risk. A banana with morning medication, a bowl of grapes as an afternoon snack, pineapple after dinner, a tall glass of orange juice with breakfast. These habits seem so ordinary, so safe, that no one questions them. But under the surface, they can trigger a silent cascade: inflammation, blood sugar spikes, arterial stiffening, blood that becomes too thin or too sticky. In the worst case scenario, a clot the size of a grain of rice blocking oxygen to your brain. As a brain doctor, I've seen the aftermath far too many times. Patients who went to bed feeling fine and woke up unable to speak. Patients who lost the ability to walk, to recognize their loved ones, or even to feed themselves. And what breaks my heart is knowing that many of these events were preventable, not with more pills, but with better awareness of how age changes the way food interacts with our bodies. But here's the good news: not all fruit is dangerous. In fact, some fruits, when chosen wisely and eaten with intention, can be powerful allies in protecting your brain, your heart, and your independence. Let's talk about fruits that heal instead of harm. One of the best choices: berries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. Low in sugar, high in antioxidants, and rich in polyphenols that protect blood vessels, reduce inflammation, and support memory and circulation. They don't spike blood sugar or interfere with most medications. They're a gentle, brain-safe source of natural sweetness. Another smart choice is green apples like Granny Smith. Unlike their sugary cousins, Fuji, Honeycrisp, Gala, green apples have a much lower glycemic impact and are rich in flavonoids that protect the brain and blood vessels. But even here, timing and pairing matter. Don't eat them on an empty stomach, especially in the evening. Pair them with a small piece of cheese or almond butter to slow digestion and minimize sugar spikes. And don't forget about avocados. Technically a fruit, though many forget it. They're packed with healthy fats that help regulate blood pressure and support nerve function. They contain potassium, but in a form absorbed slowly, without the sharp spikes you see with bananas or mangoes. Avocados are also filling and versatile. Add them to salads, mash them on whole grain toast, or enjoy them with eggs for a satisfying, brain-friendly meal. You can also use lemons and limes smartly. They're not snacks, but excellent flavor boosters. They support liver detoxification and digestion without delivering sugar or interfering with medications. A squeeze in water wakes up your system gently, hydrates you without harm, and adds brightness to your day. Then there's pomegranates. These are powerful but potent. The juice is full of antioxidants, but also concentrated sugar. If you enjoy pomegranate juice, water it down and limit it to just a few ounces. Treat it like a medicinal supplement, not a daily drink. And always consider your medications, especially if you're on blood pressure or heart meds. But here's something I want to emphasize even more strongly. Timing matters. What you eat is important, but when and how you eat, it is equally critical. This often gets overlooked in senior health education. When you're over 60, you don't want to eat fruit on an empty stomach. You don't want large portions at night when your circulation is slowing and your body is winding down for sleep. Nighttime is when blood pressure dips and hydration is often at its lowest, conditions that make it easier for clots to form. That's why I tell all my older patients, eat fruit early in the day, pair it with protein or healthy fats, never eat it right before bed. If you're used to grabbing fruit as a late-night dessert, I encourage you to rethink that habit. Instead, have a small serving mid-morning or with lunch. Add a handful of nuts, a slice of cheese, or Greek yogurt. This slows sugar absorption, stabilizes insulin response, and keeps blood vessels healthy. Because here's the truth no one tells you at 60 plus. You are not fragile, but you are different. Your body has earned that difference. It's been through decades of living, learning, fighting, and healing. Now it deserves respect. Respect means paying attention to how food lands in your body today, not how it landed at 30. It means noticing small symptoms, morning dizziness, headaches, swelling in your legs, confusion at night. These aren't normal, just aging signs. They're whispers of warning. And if you've listened this far, it tells me you care about your health. You're not here to be frightened. You're here because you want the truth, even when it's inconvenient. You want to keep your brain sharp, your balance steady, and your independence intact. That's why I'm sharing these details. Because even a habit that seems harmless can quietly set you up for a catastrophic event. The best defense isn't more medication, it's knowledge, attention, and small, wise changes that add up over weeks, months, years. So as you plan your meals, start asking yourself, am I eating this fruit at the right time of day? Am I pairing it with protein or fat to slow absorption? Am I mindful of my medications and how they might interact with this food? Is this portion reasonable for my age and health? It's not about deprivation, it's about balance. Using food as a tool to protect you, not as a hidden risk that could one day steal your speech, your mobility, your memories. Because your brain is listening to everything you feed it, every bite, every sip. Every choice is a message to your body about how you want to age. In the next part of this talk, we'll go even deeper. We'll discuss real meal strategies that work. We'll look at common pitfalls in senior diets people don't even realize they're making. We'll share practical tips you can use immediately to support your heart, brain, and overall health. I know this has been a lot to think about, but I'm grateful you're still here. It means you're serious about protecting yourself. And that's exactly what I want for you. Not fear, but confidence. Not confusion, but clarity. I hope this conversation has given you not just information, but real, actionable insight. You're not fragile, but you are different. You deserve meals designed with respect for your age and wisdom. Small changes today can mean keeping your words, your balance, your memories tomorrow. Thank you for sticking with me through this. Your commitment to learning shows me you care about your health, and that's the first and most important step. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone you love. Leave a comment about what you learned and plan to apply, because together we can help each other stay wise, stay watchful, and feed our brains the future we deserve.